Let's say China.
China.
China. China.
There are next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
You go over to China.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Trump statement, tweeting out insult to Angela Merkel. What's he doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host.
Yes, hello. It is me, James Andrews, and you are listening to So This Happened, the program where the pros get their news first. And that's bullshit. But it is Wednesday, the 24th of May, 2017. And today, Donald Trump met a less than happy Pope in the Vatican City. And if you don't believe me about the less than happy Pope thing, go on the internet and Google Donald Trump and the Pope, and the photographs literally speak for themselves. They are priceless. And of course, this visit was most anticipated by Press Secretary Sean Spicer, who has been talking for a long time about how he could not wait to meet the Pope, being a good Catholic himself. And I hope he... What? Hang on 2 seconds, I'm getting a little bit of information here. He wasn't there. Apparently, Sean Spicer was told... fucking hell. Sean Spicer was told that there was not room for him to meet the Pope. There was room, however, for Donald's wife, Melania, his eldest daughter, Ivanka, and Jared, her husband, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, National Security Advisor General McMaster, and then, more strangely, Hope Hicks. Who's she? Well, she's Trump's communications advisor. Keith Schiller, former bodyguard to Trump, was there, and also Dan Scavini, who is a social media master, apparently. But there wasn't room for Sean, so better luck. Maybe next time, Sean. Maybe next time. And also of note is Melania, the lovely Melania. In Saudi Arabia, she was pointed out that she didn't wear a headdress, which would be traditional in the Muslim religion. However, today, when she met the Pope, she did in fact veil her head, which is also traditional, which begs the question, what message is Donald sending to the Muslim world? He makes his wife wear a headdress to meet the Christian leader, but to meet Muslims, fuck that, you don't have to worry about that. Just wear your jeans and your t-shirt, sweetheart, you'll be fine. Now, of course, we shouldn't be too hard on Melania because it's pretty clear that she is fucking miserable in her relationship with Donald. You've probably seen the videos by now of them arriving in Air Force One in Saudi Arabia, Donald going to grab her hand and Melania slapping him away. Now, to be fair, there were reports coming out that she thought he was going to grab her vagina, and that's why she slapped him away. But when they landed in Rome, Donald went to grab her hand again, and this time Melania said, "Oh God, my hair's a mess, let me just push that out my head," and avoided the handhold once again. So after being thoroughly dissed by his wife twice, Donald Trump really hoped that the Pope would be nice to him. Now, they had a private one-on-one meeting for about 30 minutes when no press was there, and it's very unlikely that anything that was said in that meeting will ever come to light. Of course, we're talking about Donald Trump here, so he may just actually go back to his hotel and tweet the entire meeting. We'll have to see. After the meeting, the two men exchanged gifts. Now, Donald Trump wanted to give the Pope a signed copy of his book, The Art of the Deal, but it was suggested that maybe that wasn't the best thing, and he ended up giving him a first edition set of books by the Reverend Martin Luther King. The Pope, in turn, gave Donald Trump a medal with an olive tree on, symbolizing peace, to which Donald Trump said, "We can use peace." Yes, I suppose we can. And now moving to Manchester, the scene of Monday's horrendous terrorist attack at the Ariana Grande concert. Today, police arrested a fifth suspect in the case. They've already arrested Salman Abedi's older brother, Ishmael, who was 23. Today, they arrested his younger brother in Tripoli. It's also saying that their father has also been arrested. Police in Manchester said, I think it's very clear that this is a network that we are investigating. So, as we talked about yesterday, is he acting alone? Well, it appears not, that this is actually a terrorist network that the police have now found and are investigating. And I don't really want to spend much time on these animals. What's much more important is the victims of this terrible crime. And to them and to their families, we send our heartfelt condolences and hope that the police can tie up this investigation quickly and bring those responsible fully to justice. And now on to something which seems so less important than it did a week ago, but still, we need to talk about it. Donald Trump's budget. It came out yesterday and it has been analysed over and over again all day today, and we're going to hit on some of the highlights. Here's what some people said about what the budget is.
The Trump budget introduced today constitutes a massive transfer of wealth from working families, the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor to the top 1%. It follows in the footsteps of the Trump-Ryan health care bill, which gives huge tax breaks to the wealthiest few while throwing 24 million Americans off of their health insurance and dramatically raising premiums for older workers.
Okay, so that was Bernie, obviously, and he was always going to be against any budget that came out of the Trump White House. But just so that I'm playing this fair, here is what Representative Mark Sanford, who is a Republican, said about the budget plan.
You have said that the foundation of your budget is 3% growth. And I have looked every which way at how you might get there, and you can't get there.
So even some Republicans are coming out and saying this budget just doesn't work. It makes no sense. Now, you do have the usual suspects, Paul Ryan, obviously, saying it's great, Donald's doing exactly what he said he'd do. This is what he was voted in to do. So, okay, let's take a look at what this budget does. Now, it cuts a lot and it adds a lot. And let's have a look what it does. So, the Department of Labor. In the 2017 budget, so currently, it receives $12.1 billion from the federal government. Under the proposed budget, it will drop 19.8% to $9.7 billion. That's pretty huge. Now, the Department of the Interior, which would be, national parks, monuments, insignificant things like that, currently gets $13.2 billion. Under the proposed budget, that will drop over 10% down to $11.7 billion. Now, the Department of State and International Aid, so diplomats, money for countries that are struggling from natural disasters or war, famine, whatever they are suffering from, they get an absolutely preposterously large cut. Currently, they receive $39.7 billion. Under the new budget, they will drop almost 30% to $28.2 billion. Department of Justice takes a hit, but not so big. It's only a 3.8% hit. And the Department of Housing and Urban Development also takes a massive 13% hit. And that is one that, most people would probably agree is quite a good thing to have. And bear with me, because we're almost done with the cuts. The Department of Education takes a 13.5% hit from $68.2 billion to $59 billion. That's a significant amount of money, especially when we hear about how teachers are struggling to educate their students because of lack of resources that they have in the classroom. The Corps of Engineers, they drop 16%, and the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, well, we knew this one was going to get fucked, right? Right off the bat, because the head of the EPA doesn't even believe in global warming or climate change or global cooling, whatever he wants to call it on whatever day it is, they take a 31.4% hit. That is preposterous, but there it goes. And the Department of Transportation, they also take a 13% hit, which is, whatever. Transportation's not that important, is it? So now, let's move on to what gets money in this budget. And it's really not going to come as any surprise to anybody. The Department of Homeland Security, they get a 6.8% increase. They go from $41 billion to $44 billion. So, that's pretty nice for them. The Department of Defense, they get a 10% increase. They go from $521.8 billion to $574.5 billion, which is just crazy. And then the Department of Veteran Affairs, they get a 5.8% increase. And I'm actually okay with that one. I think we treat our veterans not as they should be treated, and I'm fine with raising what they get. That's cool with me. And in order to make all these cuts and still keep a balanced budget, the proposal goes on to say that we're going to have to eliminate a number of government programs. And the list is incredibly long. And if you want to look at it, you can find it. It's everywhere. A few of the key ones for me, which they're talking about completely eliminating, is the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. We know that one. The Institute of Museum and Library Services, that'll be gone. Legal Services Corporation, gone. The National Endowment for the Arts, see you later. The National Endowment for the Humanities, see you later. The U.S. Institute of Peace. Now, because Trump got his little medal from the Pope today with the olive tree on, he might say, well, we better keep the Institute of Peace. Otherwise, the fucking Pope's going to put a hex on me or whatever they do. He doesn't know, does he? And then I'm not going to bore you with a list of all these agencies which are going to close. There's a shitload in education. There's an absolute ton in commerce. What this budget essentially does is it gives massive incentives and rewards to the rich while completely stomping on the poor. And one perfect example of that, which I just want to spend a few minutes on, is food stamps. Donald Trump has said time and time again that these are wasteful, people are on them who don't need to be on them, and there's a lot of myths and there's a lot of anger about the whole food stamps. Today, when I was torturing myself listening to right-wing radio, one of the hosts, who I won't name, Mike Gallagher, he was saying that it's outrageous that people on food stamps can even shop at Amazon. Well, yes, because Amazon sells groceries, so if you shop online because it's cheaper, then it only makes sense that you could actually use food stamps online. But that's another story for another day. Now, you, like me, have probably heard stories and outrage from people saying, oh my God, people on food stamps, they are buying steak and lobster and alcohol and cigarettes, nice cars, clothes, all this stuff, and we're paying for it. Okay, let's settle down just a little bit and look at the actual facts, because, they are somewhat important sometimes. The U.S. Congress sets the food stamp benefit at an amount of roughly $4 a day per person. So, show me a nice car that I can buy for $4 a day, and I am signing that lease. $4 a day, that's what people on food stamps are getting. And while it's true that somebody could save up their food stamps to perhaps buy a steak or a lobster at the end of the month, the idea that they're spending this on alcohol and cigarettes and food is ridiculous. Because prepared foods and anything that is not a food is simply not allowed to be purchased on food stamps. Things you can buy would be rice, beans, peanut butter, milk, cheese, eggs. Sort of the simple things in life. And then to kill the myth that, but they're giving food stamps to people who don't really need them, here we go. To be eligible for food stamps, you must be at or below 130% of the federal poverty guideline. And let's use an example at the top of that. So a family of 3, the poverty line that's used to calculate food stamp benefits, is $1,675 a month. Therefore, 130% of the poverty line for a 3-person family would be $2,177 a month, or $26,000 a year. A family of 3 living on $26,000 of a year, that is the highest that you can be earning to receive food stamps. And that is not a lot of money, and the budget plans to cut that. And I would argue that that does not need to be cut. That needs to be increased, and I will explain to you why I believe that will be increased. The average monthly food stamp benefit per person is only, right now, $133, which equals less than $1.50 per person per meal. And I'm just going to let that sink in while you go and eat your $1.50 meal, right? It's ridiculous. Anyway, we are out of time. So thank you so much for listening, and we will chat again tomorrow. Remember, you can always follow me on Twitter at SoThisHappened. And if you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you're listening to me. And have a great evening, and I will chat with you tomorrow. Bye.